We as a society need to have a serious conversation about men's mental health. Of course, this is a conversation that women should be having as well, but we're focusing on men's mental health in this video because for too long, men have ignored their mental health. So stay tuned and don't go away because NBA All-Star John Wall considered suicide after an injury and his mother's death. First up, can wealthy NBA stars like John Wall really have severe depression and suicidal thoughts? Of course. Unfortunately, regardless of the tax bracket you fall into or your status in life, severe mental health problems such as suicidal thoughts can creep in if certain negative feelings or thoughts develop in our hearts and minds and go unchecked. Recently, Los Angeles Clippers guard John Wall admitted that he had considered taking his own life while dealing with a torn Achilles tendon and the loss of some of his most cherished family members, including his mother. To make matters worse, Wall had to deal with all of these things just as the COVID-19 pandemic was reaching its peak. Talk about finding yourself in a dark place. Wall joined the Clippers this summer and says he's eager to put his skills to the test in the upcoming season. Over the past 3 years, Wall has only played 40 games due to injuries, COVID-19, and his former team, the Houston Rockets, didn't play him before he joined the Clippers. Wall gave a speech at a garden dedication ceremony for his late mother at a Salvation Army store in his hometown of Raleigh, North Carolina. Wall's mother was a volunteer at the facility. At the ceremony, Wall spoke of his experiences over the past 3 years and said, "Darkest place I've ever been in. At one point in time, I thought about committing suicide. I mean, just tearing my Achilles, my mom being sick, my mom passing, my grandma passing a year later. All this in the midst of COVID. Me going to my mother's chemotherapy, me sitting by my mom taking her last breaths, wearing the same clothes for 3 days straight, laying on the couch beside her." Next up, how did John Wall find his way out of the darkness and into the light? You're about to find out. Wall's mother was named Frances Pulley, and she died in December of 2019 after a hard-fought battle with breast cancer. Frances was only 58 years old, and 1 year later, Wall's grandmother died. The injury to Wall's Achilles only complicated matters further, and he found himself at his wits' end. At his mother's garden dedication ceremony, Wall further explained, "We're all going through times. Nobody's got it easy, but I don't think a lot of people could get through what I went through. And for me to get back on top where I want to be and seeing the fans still want me to play, having the support from my hometown, this important period means a lot. I went to find a therapist. A lot of people think, I don't need help. I can get through it at any time. But you've got to be true to yourself and find out what's best for you." Lakers superstar LeBron James' production company tweeted, "At John Wall, we got your back, always." James himself then tweeted, "And I mean always. Don't ever question it, bro. Proud of you, at John Wall." But let's unpack Wall's very candid statement for a moment. The things that struck me were his willingness to freely admit that he had sought out a therapist and that many people think, "I don't need help. I can get through it at any time." I hate to paint everyone with the same brush, but it is true that the majority of men will not seek out the help of a therapist for mental health support, and many do think that they don't need help and can get through things on their own. And these are things that need to change. Up next, how many pro athletes suffer from severe mental health issues? Let's find out. While many of the world's most elite athletes are thought to be invincible when it comes to their physical health, their mental health may not be as fit as their physical. It's estimated that 34% of current elite athletes have anxiety or depression, but those who do are likely not to talk about it and are more likely to use drugs as a coping mechanism rather than seek out professional help. This begs the question, why would they do that? They would do that because of the negative stigma attached to mental illness. Also, we're talking about public figures here and athletes who are world famous for their athletic prowess. Publicly admitting that they're having mental health issues might change the public's perception of them, and for some athletes, that's a risk that they're just not willing to take. Remember that negative stigma that I mentioned just seconds ago? That's probably why so many pro athletes refuse to stand up and say, "Hey, look, I'm suffering from severe mental health problems. I need help. I need support." If athletes are physically injured or ill, they see a doctor and no one bats an eye. But if athletes are mentally injured or ill and go see a doctor, eyebrows will be raised, and therein lies the problem. Society has to change the negative stigma around mental health. You're not a weak person if you suffer from depression, and if you have mood swings, you're not crazy. You may have some underlying mental health issues, and it's perfectly healthy and normal to speak with a qualified professional about how you're feeling, the same way you would if you had a sore back, neck, or toothache. Stay tuned and don't go away, because we're bringing you the latest on mental health in professional sports. Next up, who are some of the professional athletes that have suffered from mental health issues? Let's take a look. Tennis sensation Naomi Osaka has made headlines since she decided not to participate in a post-match news conference at the French Open, only to subsequently withdraw from the tournament altogether. Osaka is only one of many athletes athletes with anxiety and depression, and she cited her mental health as the reason for not wanting to partake in the news conference. She continues to speak out about mental health in sports as well as racial injustice issues in the sports of tennis. And let's not forget about NHL goalie Carey Price's very public mental health struggles. Back in November of 2021, Price released a statement saying, "Over the last few years, I've let myself get to a very dark place, and I didn't have the tools to cope with that struggle. Last month, I made the decision to enter a residential treatment facility for substance use. Things had reached a point that I realized I needed to prioritize my health for both myself and for my family. Asking for help when you need it is what we encourage our kids to do, and it was what I needed to do." In his statement, Price further explained that he was working through years of neglecting his mental health and that it will take him years to repair it. Up next, what do Terry Bradshaw, Serena Williams, and Ali Rassman all have in common? They've all had mental health issues. For millions of NFL fans, former NFL quarterback Terry Bradshaw is a living legend. Since his stint as one of the league's greatest quarterbacks, he's reinvented himself as a football analyst and actor. Despite his amazing career and superstar status, Bradshaw secretly battled depression for most of his life. And like many athletes suffering from depression, Bradshaw drank copious amounts of alcohol to numb the pain. After years of this downward spiral, Bradshaw finally realized that alcohol wasn't helping. After starting medications for depression, Bradshaw, one of the best QBs to ever lace up for the Pittsburgh Steelers, was able to manage his symptoms and put an end to the boozing. But the first step for Bradshaw was knowing that he had a problem. Tennis star Serena Williams has been very candid about her struggles with depression. Most recently, she's even discussed her battles with postpartum depression after she gave birth to her daughter back in 2017. Today, Williams is a voice for other athletes with mental illness. She speaks openly about mental health and has fought to break down those harmful stigmas that we discussed earlier. Olympic gymnast and star Ali Rassman has also struggled with mental health issues. Back in 2018, Rassman testified against USA gymnast Dr. Larry Nassar for sexual abuse. Nassar left a trail of destruction in his wake and left Rassman with PTSD. Today, Rassman does everything she can to ensure she's caring for her mental health. Finally, what are the 5 main warning signs of mental illness? The 5 main warning signs of mental illness are: Number 1, excessive paranoia, worry, or anxiety. Number 2, long-lasting sadness or irritability. Number 3, extreme changes in moods. Number 4, social withdrawal. And number 5, dramatic changes in eating or sleeping patterns. In the vast majority of cases, the symptoms of mental disorders can be managed conservatively with medications or psychotherapy. Mental illness is common. It can occur at any age, and at least 20% of the people on Earth will suffer from some form of mental illness. Mental illnesses or disorders cover a very wide range of conditions. Mental disorders affect the mood, thinking, and behavior of individuals. Some of the more common mental disorders include anxiety, depression, addiction, eating disorders such as anorexia and bulimia, and even schizophrenia. Every day, mental disorders interfere with people's ability to function normally, work, study, or maintain a good quality of life. That's a wrap for today's video. Let us know what you think, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.